Hello everybody, I'm Connor Klein. This is my YouTube channel. I dedicate this channel to reviewing films. Today's video, we're going to be looking back at some of the films that came out through the year of 2020. The first film today is The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
We have every reason to believe that this monster will show up again tonight.
The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Written, directed, and starring Jim Cummings. Co-starring Riki Lindhome and the Academy Award nominated Robert Forster. The premise of the film is that it follows a disgruntled police officer struggling to deal with the town's angst that arises due to a werewolf killing spree that occurs on every full moon. The film's cinematography is incredible. The landscapes and just the scenery is all shot beautifully, crisp, and just clean. The acting in the film is really good too. Once again, the lead, Jim Cummings, kills it. Steals every scene with his witty dialogue and then his serious tone in other scenes. Yet the film deals with a werewolf. It's a lot about the inner struggle of the townsfolk themselves and them dealing with their personal demons. Wrapped in this werewolf story is a story about family. It deals with a father and son relationship and then a father and daughter relationship. Yet this film's a horror comedy. The comedic tone becomes more apparent as the film goes on. The characters in the film, they develop more in the second half of the movie rather than the first half, as well as its own story. The story is more straightforward in its first half, and then as you gradually get going, it becomes more twisted. There's a lot more things that become clear and muddled just for the sake of the viewing. It's a very fun movie. It's quick, it's in and out, it tells you what it wants to get done, and then it does it. The film itself is very enjoyable. There's a lot of stuff done with it that is very neat. Shots are done very well. The characters are very funny. There's some really witty dialogue written in there. Overall, I think this movie is a very enjoyable experience. I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10.
Let me help you.
You can't help me. Surprise.
The Invisible Man is written and directed by Leigh Whannel, based upon the novel of the same name by H.G. Wells. The film stars Elisabeth Moss and Oliver Jackson-Cohen. The film's premise is about a woman who is stalked and gaslit by her wealthy, abusive boyfriend, even after his apparent suicide, which allows her to ultimately deduce that he could become invisible. It's a great modernization of this book that came out in the early 1900s. It does a great job keeping it very up to date, and it shines a light, and it's a very smart narrative on abuse and relationships, mental, emotional abuse, even physical abuse, and even gaslighting. It's something we haven't seen a lot in mainstream films. So it's nice to finally see something kind of shine a light on that to encourage other people to come forth with their own stories. It's very cost efficient. It had a budget of $7 million. It's a great film. It's a very smart narrative. The direction's really good. It allows you to feel suspense. Leigh Whannel does such a great job because he can film a chair being empty and you feel like the Invisible Man is there. It fills you with suspense and fear. And these shots just of blank hallways, blank chairs, it allows the audience to feel something. You are waiting and anticipating for this guy to just pop out of nowhere because you feel like he's there, but you're not really sure of it. It's wildly entertaining. It's a sci-fi thriller, and the sci-fi aspect really is brought up a notch because it deals with technology and how things are done and made. My only issue is that there's a few plot holes and inconsistencies, such as how does one character transport everywhere, and how at times this film talks a lot about security cameras and security camera footage being very accessible, but they kind of forget about security cameras when it's most convenient for the plot. And I guess it's just the storyteller wants you to kind of just go along with the story they're willing to tell. It doesn't take away from the film. Elisabeth Moss kills it in the lead role because she plays a woman who's not crazy, who ends up going crazy because no one believes her and no one believes what she is saying, that there's somebody who is invisible chasing after her. And as a viewer, you can kind of relate to this because there's been a time, I'm assuming, in everyone's life where they feel like people just put them down, make them feel so insignificant. And she is trying to go against that. She is telling the truth, but people don't believe her. This film is really entertaining. It's fun. At times it drags a little, but overall it's a great watch. I give The Invisible Man a 7 out of 10.
I just want to be normal people again.
Black Bear is written and directed by Lawrence Michael Levine. It stars Aubrey Plaza, Christopher Abbott, and Sarah Gadon. The movie is about a filmmaker who intrudes on a married couple's B&B, and she gets caught up in a game full of desire and jealousy, and it affects her work. Now, this film is incredible. The direction is great. It has a very unique tone to it. It's very disturbing and odd, but with the humor that is much prevalent in this film, it balances it out, and I will give it that. The humor in this film is actually pretty funny against its other very unsettling tones. Now, the film feels like there's two stories in one movie. One story is about a marriage that is falling apart due to an intruder who comes in and stays with them while she's trying to write the film. The second story is about a woman's mental deterioration while shooting a film in the same location. And the story that she is shooting is a lot similar to the first story in the film. This film is extremely meta. There's a lot of references to other films in it, such as some works from John Cassavetes, and it helps this film. It pushes it further. It's a lot of intriguing and thought-provoking ideas. The three leads do a fantastic job with what they're given. They kill it in their roles. They go from extremely funny dialogue to very serious, uncomfortable dialogue. And there's a very big difference in what every character has or wants to say. It's very uncomfortable, but it's a very entertaining watch. This film is very uncomfortable with its disturbing tone, but the humor kind of makes it a little more funny, and everything about this film is very well directed. The script knows where it's wanting to go. It's very thought-provoking and very surreal. I give Black Bear an 8.5 out of 10.
There's a bomb in the cake. Don't worry, I used to be a bomb guy. Stand back!
Oh my God! Let me make it plain. Gotta make way for
It's gonna be a beautiful wedding.
Palm Springs is directed by Max Barbakow, written by Andy Siara. It stars Andy Samberg and Christin Milioti. The film is about a guy named Niles who gets stuck in this Groundhog-esque time loop. He lives his day over and over and over again until one day he meets Sarah, who also gets stuck in the time loop with him. And they begin to bond over certain activities that they do together, and they create a fun, lasting friendship. This film is very funny, it's heartfelt, and it takes a new twist on a subgenre that has been done so many different times before. It has been popularized by Groundhog Day, but this whole time loop genre, there's really just the same stuff being recycled. But this movie actually takes a different take on it. What ends up happening is that we meet our main character, Niles, who's actually been in this time loop for quite some time now. And we're actually catching up to him and what activities and what things that he's done to try to escape. We find this out because of another main character, Sarah. Now, the cast is funny. Andy Samberg does his same old man-child character that he does perfectly, but instead this time he's actually given some development. You can actually see some character in him. He feels stuck, but he does not want to leave. Now, Christin Milioti, she does an amazing job, yet she is more of our straight character in this film. She also has no issue with being the fun one as well. It's a very heartfelt movie. It deals a lot with bonds between two people who have never met. It deals with family bonds, family issues, siblings. It's extremely heartfelt. There's a lot of funny montages in this movie dealing with certain activities, like when they're dancing, they shoot guns, they go in random pools, because they know that there's no consequence since the day will repeat over and over. It's entertaining. There's a lot of witty dialogue that is used throughout this movie to get points across, and it actually becomes extremely heartfelt near the end because it deals with how there's conflicts between these two characters. And especially the last 10 minutes of this film, there's a very relatable, very heartfelt speech that Niles, played by Samberg, gives. And it's very relatable because it deals with the fear of moving on and the fear of the unknown. The direction in this film, it's very different. There's a lot of neat shots to it. This film could have been terrible in so many different ways. It could have just been a carbon copy of a bunch of other time loop movies that came before it. But it's able to stand on its own because it's smart with its writing and it's smart with the way that they take the story. Overall, this movie is very funny, it's enjoyable. It's definitely one of the year's better films. Actually, I would put it in the top 10 of this year. I'd give Palm Springs an 8.5 out of 10.
It's gonna be a beautiful wedding.
A small thought. It's all it takes to lose control.
Possessor is written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. The film stars Christopher Abbott, Andrea Riseborough, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Sean Bean. The film's premise is about an assassin who takes control of people's minds and bodies to allow them to perform hits for elite customers, but one body that she possesses soon retaliates against her. This film is incredible. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites of the year. It's just so beautiful looking. The cinematography is great. There's a lot of different hues and vibrant colors. There's a lot of reds and blues. I am a bit biased by saying this film is amazing. I do have a soft spot for a lot of body horror movies that were actually popularized by the father of the writer and director, David Cronenberg. This movie, it's a unique telling of the way the modern generation uses technology and AI to do things. This film also takes a lot of talking points about gender and identity issues, which is a very modern topic and hasn't really been evaluated by a lot of movies. The direction is extremely strong. There's a lot of really neat and exciting visuals that are all done with practical effects rather than majority of it being with CGI. I do enjoy that a lot. The acting by Andrea Riseborough and Christopher Abbott's really good because you have to play someone who is possessed by another person. There's a lot of cool camera trickery that they do that I completely enjoy. I find this movie to be very crazy. It's definitely not meant for everybody to watch it because there is a lot of violence and a lot of nudity. There's two different cuts of this movie, by the way. We have the uncut version and then we have a rated version. Now, the uncut version deals a lot more with violence, such as somebody getting stabbed with a fire poker, and it lingers on that violence and how it's done. While the rated cut, yeah, it does show some of that. It's not as to that extreme. The concept of this film is very fresh. It's creative. It's different. A lot of people will be turned off by it due to the visuals, due to how unsettling the tone of the film is, but the film isn't afraid to make its audience very uncomfortable. It wants to show you, and it wants to demonstrate in its own way how we use our body against our minds, and it's painting this in such a visceral way. It's a very surreal, trippy film. It's not recommended for everybody, but if you want to watch something that's very out there, very different, and you don't mind a lot of blood, gore, violence, sexual stuff, I would recommend it. I give Possessor a 9 out of 10.
I want my body back.
Come and get it.
Look, I know I look like the butcher, but it's Millie.
He's crazy.
Okay, Booker, can you look at me, please?
Booker!
Dry up, bitch.
Booker, help! Booker!
Will you shut up?
Booker!
Our film is Freaky, directed by Christopher Landon, co-written by Landon and Michael Kennedy. The film stars Vince Vaughn and Kathryn Newton. The premise is this unpopular girl in high school unintentionally switches bodies with the notorious serial killer, the Blissfield Butcher, and she has 24 hours to reverse this curse. This film, it's fun. It's definitely entertaining. It parodies a lot of slashers that have come before it, such as with its kills, its fonts, some of its dialogue. It's very tongue-in-cheek type of humor, so I kind of found that funny, because I do enjoy that type of humor. Some of the dialogue is very on the nose, like, it doesn't allow for sly references. They hit you so hard with references for different movies. The direction is pretty solid, too. It tries to go for a little more audacious shots, and majority of the times it does pay off. The best part of this movie by far is Vince Vaughn. It's hysterical to see him. He's actually extremely funny in this one. It's one of his funniest roles in recent time. There's something unique and charming about seeing a 6'4" man with the brain of a teenage girl. It's just intriguing. It's funny, and I thought it was pretty entertaining myself. But once the body switching happens, there's not a lot done with Kathryn Newton's character. She just kind of sits there, mutters a few words, kills people, and gives a bunch of Kubrick stares. So I really wish they could have done more with her once the switch happened, but a lot of effort was given into the Vince Vaughn switch. And you really just want to see him continuously, because it's funny. There's a lot of funny stuff that happens with that. The writing in this film is alright. It's not super strong, because you're taking an idea that's already been successful in a bunch of other movies, such as Freaky Friday and then the remake Freaky Friday, and you're kind of using that as a template, but instead of the two main characters being normal people, you're switching it with a serial killer and you're making it a horror. Now, Christopher Landon is no stranger to taking really good, successful ideas and then converting them to a horror genre. He's done the first and second Happy Death Days. I really wish Landon would kind of make something more original so we can see how he actually deals with certain topics that haven't been done before. But even when converting these movies, he does do a solid job. Another downside of the writing is that there's a lot of information that gets spoon-fed to the audience. He doesn't allow the audience to kind of figure out and gather information for themselves. It's very spoon-fed. It's forced down your throat, such as, you know, a character being different because of their father dying. It specifically says, well, you haven't been the same since your father passed. Yet that is essential. The audience could have figured that out a different way instead of someone spewing exposition at you. The cast is very talented, I will say that. It's a strong, funny movie with some downsides such as its writing, but overall it's entertaining. It's a lot of fun. I give Freaky a 7 out of 10. Thank you everyone so much for watching today. This really means a lot to me. I've always really wanted to do YouTube movie reviews, and I finally sought an opportunity to finally do this. And right now I'm just testing out the water, see what I like, see what I dislike, see what stuff to do, see what stuff not to do. So if anybody has any recommendations of what I should do, what I shouldn't do, or any comments and feedback, that would be amazing. You can all write that in the comments below. And if anyone has any recommendations for any movies you would like me to review, please also write that. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, and goodbye.